obesity, one fat boy at a time. You can't turn on the TV without seeing ads about weight loss supplements, deals for health club memberships, or celebrity endorsements for Jenny Craig. It's a billion-dollar business that preys on millions of people dying to be thin. It's a battle that has lasted almost 4 decades for one local man. In his new book, Fat Boy, Thin Man, former Boston Globe reporter Michael Prager talks about his lifelong food addiction and the more than 600 pounds he's lost and gained since he was 12 years old. And Michael Prager is here. I have to say, I was riveted by this. And first of all, by your admission, because I think a lot of fat people don't do this, that you ate too much. Oh, I've got this and I've got that, but just saying it flat out, is...
Well, when you're 365 pounds, it's really well beyond the faking it stage. So what could be more obvious?
Describe your food addiction. I mean, you go into it in some detail in the book, but what is it? Because it's not necessarily always a craving for food, but what is it?
Actually, I would say a large part of it is biochemical, and it is physical, and it is a craving for food. Part of it is motivated by psychology, just the excitement of what I'm going to eat, but it's also biochemical, where once I put some substances into my body, my body is more likely than, say, you or anybody else that's in the building, unless they too are a food addict, that is, just to react in a different way. When I eat refined sugar or refined grain, which most people call flour, my body says, hey, that was great, can I have some more? And then, can I have some more right away? And when are we going to get some more? And it's that obsession. It's a mental obsession, but it's also biochemically triggered. So I'm better off when I don't eat those foods.
You got into some bizarre behavior too. You talk about filling your car with foot-long subs, and then you had this mentality to go in and you'd pretend that you were ordering the food for somebody else, and bring in fake lists. And you thought, well, I'm not really putting it over on anyone. They probably know I'm going to eat it all, but you really were getting it all for yourself.
Of course.
You say, of course. I mean, I can't imagine being able to consume that amount.
Well, that's part of what addiction is long past when it's fun, long past when it tastes good, long past when it feels good of being filled, I would just keep going. In the same way, a lot of people have trouble with the concept because everybody eats and they think they understand what the experience is like, and they certainly understand what their experience is like. But whenever it's hard, all you have to do is think alcohol instead of food. Mm-hmm. You've heard stories of people who can put away a 6-pack and then 2 and then 3 and then they're knocking down a case a night or a 5th or whatever, and I can't imagine having that much, most people would say. And it's true. Most people don't have that much. It's abnormal behavior. And it's driven not only by what started as a fun diversion or whatever, it's insane.
You wrote about how your mother told doctors when you were an infant, a tiny infant, that he just doesn't stop eating. He doesn't know when to stop. His brother stops, but he doesn't stop. And well, he'll grow out of that. You didn't.
That's right. That's right. Now, I don't think, first of all, it's very complicated. Addiction in general is very complicated because there are some, as I said, biochemical triggers, and there are some emotional triggers. There are spiritual deficits. That was true for me anyway. But with food, it's even more complicated because it could, people blanch at the term food addiction. That can't, what next? Air addiction? But so we need a better name. But we could call it some food addiction because the first thing I did for my health around food was I gave up refined sugar. But the suggestion I got at the time was refined sugar and refined grain. And I fought tooth and nail. You can't make me give that up. There's nothing wrong with grain. I'm not going to give it up. I love it. If it had been Brussels sprouts, I would have said, okay, fine.
So is it part of that, is it the celiac? I mean,
no.
You don't
no,
have
see, that's part of why it's so complicated. Yeah. Some people have an allergy to wheat, and as I understand it, that's what celiac disease is. To me, it's not the substance, it's the process. It's the refinement. When the heroin starts out as the harmless poppy, but if you take out some parts of the plant and you intensify the rest, you end up with something really seriously addictive. if you do that with coca leaves, you take something that it's the same process. You take out the fiber and some of the other things, and you intensify the rest. If you do that with sugar cane or sugar beets or fruit, you take out the fiber and you intensify the rest. You get a white powder just like the other substances, and it's the same thing. It's not as intense an experience, and I've never done heroin, but I have done cocaine, so I speak from experience. But it is the same thing. My body, when it's introduced to that refined product, wants more. So it's the refinement, and the same thing with grain. I can have wheat, I can have rice, I can have barley. I just can't, through experience, I prefer not to have the refined versions of those things.
So people are going to be watching you, looking and saying, well, okay, what did he do? How did he get over this? You tried every freaking diet. You did the Atkins thing, and you have a funny line, and they say, oh, the great thing about Atkins is it's all you can eat, and you made good use of that. So you went in and out of a couple of programs. You checked into this place in Long Island, and then you went back, but what happened?
What I like to say is that I've lost 155 pounds. I've kept it off for 20 years, fairly consistently, not a straight line on the scale, but pretty consistently, and I did it without going on a diet and without having surgery. But what I did do, I mean, that's true, but it's not accurate, or maybe it's the other way around. But I basically changed everything about my life, and it involved, as I said, it involved spiritual growth, where I had spiritual arrogance before. I was sure that it was all a crock, and now I allow that maybe I was wrong about that. But also, I have been going to support groups for 20 years, and it all started with therapy. It started with friends at work coming to me and saying, we think you're unhappy, we think you should get help. I went to the employee assistance program. They suggested therapy. This therapist eventually suggested support groups. When that didn't do enough to change my behavior around food, I might have been changing internally, but I was still 365 pounds, or at least that's what I weighed the day I went into rehab in 1991. So that's what I would suggest for others. Only the people with 365 pounds need to take severe, dramatic action. I wouldn't suggest that kind of path necessarily for somebody.
And you exercise now too?
Oh, I do, yes.
Yeah, religiously. Now, what do you think of all this stuff? There's this program coming on tomorrow, or tonight, is it food addiction? And like tonight is also, I happen to know, Biggest Loser. I mean, are these dangerous things, or are they motivational in a sense? I mean, who's to say?
Well, I've actually seen The Addicted to Food. That's going to be in the Oprah Network starting tonight. I got a review copy, and I've already written about it on my blog. And what I say is that it's very realistic, or rings true to my experience in rehab. It is at a rehab facility in Texas, and I think it's good TV, and I think it's realistic, and I think it's valuable for both those things. And I think what's better about it than heavy or I used to be fat is that they say is that there are no harangue from personal trainers saying you should do better, that you worthless pieces, whatever.
So it's not bad. All right. Well, Michael Prager, I was fascinated by the story. Thanks so much. Thanks for coming in.
Sure.
All right. When we continue, his life as a dancer.